Hey, how's it going? Welcome to this new video. Today, I'm going to show you how to remove the background from an image directly in Photoshop. I chose two images, one that I consider easy and another that I consider difficult. The easy one is the one you're seeing on the screen and the difficult one is this one. So how are we going to create the cutout? It's quite straightforward as we're going to utilize what can be termed the artificial intelligence capabilities of Photoshop. The initial step we need to undertake with both images, assuming we have two, is to navigate to the right side where it indicates background, and here we will eliminate the lock. Simply click on it to remove it, and if that doesn't function, just drag it to the trash can icon located over here. Now let's commence with the first image. The primary action we need to perform is to locate this tool known as the magic wand tool, which is positioned fourth in the toolbar. If it doesn't appear there, you should go to Window, Workspace, select Essentials, and it will display exactly as I have my toolbar arranged. So in position 4, you will find this tool. If the object selection tool doesn't appear, you right click and select either the magic wand tool or quick selection tool. The crucial aspect is to select one of these. I don't know why, but I have the tendency of selecting the magic wand tool. Now, at the top there's something labeled Select Subject. We click there and wait for it to load. As you can observe, I mentioned this is easy because the subject, the one in the foreground, is distinctly different from the background. So as you can see, I practically have a perfect cutout. If I zoom in, let's select this tool, and if I zoom in here, you'll notice the cutout is practically well executed. These particles here are missing, which we could rectify with the polygonal lasso tool, which is the third tool. We select it here and then we proceed detail by detail. If we press shift while having this tool selected, the icon changes. Observe the icon closely. When I press shift, it changes to add more parts of the image. So I select the part I want to appear, which is all this black part, and the same applies for here and below. Well, you go into detail for each element. Another thing I noticed up here, which wasn't selected well, but this is mostly due to the image quality, is that this part is missing, and a piece of this is missing. So instead of adding, since this is already selected, we're going to press the Alt key, and as you can see, when I press Alt, the tool transforms and displays a minus sign. We select the part we don't want in the image, which is this part, because for me it's a white part that doesn't serve any purpose. And here I think I selected too much of this, so I'm going to remove this part. There, it's done. And we can go detail by detail on each one. The same applies here. If you want, you can go into very small detail, pixel by pixel. The only action we need to perform here is press Ctrl J on our keyboard or Command J if we're on a Mac. By selecting here, we press Ctrl J, and as you can see, two layers were created. Layer 1 is where the cutout is, and layer 2 is where Kratos is with the background. So I remove this, and as you can see, the cutout was automatically generated, and I have Kratos without a background. I can move it however I want, make it smaller, make it much larger over here. Yes, and place it next to something, for example, if I need to create a thumbnail or a specific image. So let's leave it on this side like this. And now let's proceed to the next image. It functions identically in the same manner, but what I want you to observe is that some photos are easier than others. So I'm going to click where it says select subject, and as we can see here, it wasn't selected as precisely as in the other one, and that's because here the background of Kratos and the sun isn't as different. So what we can do here is use the polygonal lasso tool with Alt. We start here and begin removing all these little pieces that don't belong to the image and that I don't want to appear. I don't want this part of the background to show. In case I want it, I select it, and as I mentioned, you can go into detail selecting each little thing and checking here. The same applies for this part. I don't want it to appear, so I remove it and so on. In this section, I observed that it selected a segment from the rear portion of the background, which is not beneficial for me. If I zoom in on Kratos, The automatic selection nearly captured a fragment of the head. Therefore, I simply utilize Shift in this scenario, as Shift is intended for adding and Alt is for removing. Since I need to incorporate that part of the head, I press Shift, and as you can see, it becomes selected, allowing me to proceed detail by detail. Naturally, it depends on your preferred method. For instance, this section I don't wish to include because it belongs to the background, but evidently the objective is to zoom in and execute it professionally piece by piece, ensuring it is well cut out and completed as it should be. However, given that we are currently in the tutorial, let's assume that I have already meticulously selected everything accurately. What I proceed to do next is, while having a click on this particular layer, I press Ctrl J. As we can observe here, there are certain segments that should not have been cut out but were evidently included, which we did not require. Nonetheless, that is simply a matter of reviewing and adjusting it. So we replicate the same process, bring this image over here, and as you can see, it is already perfectly cut out. In this particular scenario where we might have overlooked a detail and prefer not to continue editing that entire section, we can establish a layer mask in this area. With the specific layer we intend to modify selected, we click on the layer mask and the subsequent options will appear. I will choose the brush tool here, which can be accessed with the letter, and adjust the hardness setting. Personally, I prefer to set the hardness to 100 to effectively eliminate what is unnecessary, specifically this portion that resembles a tumor. Therefore, what I am planning to do in this situation is make a selection. If my intention is to erase, I must choose the color black. Conversely, if I wish to restore elements, then I ought to select the color white. Consequently, I will switch here because it is necessary for the color black to be the primary one, and I shall commence erasing. As you can see, having the click, meaning having this part selected that says layer 2, but with the clipping mask selected, not the image itself. If I click here, it doesn't work, it's here. And what I'm going to do is gradually remove all this stuff here, and as you can see, it's already going away. But let's say I made a mistake and went too far and erased this, and I'm like, oh no, what do I do now? Certainly, let's assume we press Ctrl Z and it was resolved, but let's imagine it wasn't exactly like that. It wasn't that straightforward. I erased one eye and neglected to restore it, then I erased the other eye and, well, this appears quite eerie. I removed the mouth and took off another section over here, and well, there's a threshold where Photoshop ceases to perform so many Ctrl Z's due to my excessive usage. So what do? The only thing we do is go back to the brush part. As I was saying, black is to erase and white is to restore. So I switch back to make sure white is on top. And if anything, to make it a bit faster, what I'm going to do is simply enlarge the brush and go over it again, and just like that, Photoshop automatically restores what I erased without needing to use Ctrl Z at all, and it's back to how it was. And if I have the desire to restore that tumor which was previously present here, I simply click there. But no, I actually intended to remove it, and the same principle applies to every detail around this specific area. If we wish, we can, I don't know, I believe the cut was executed correctly. Perhaps this part here was left, so I want to erase it. So I place the black on top. If you prefer, you can press X instead of clicking these arrows here, and it will automatically switch the color. See, I'm pressing X and it alternates one over the other. So I press X for black and commence removing this, and so on and so forth here as well. Done, perfect, it's completed. And by going detail by detail, you can modify whatever you wish to appear or not appear. The fascinating aspect of this is that it's an editable image, meaning at any moment everything we've removed can be restored. It's not like when you make a cut like the ones we did previously, where if you make the cut, there's no turning back, no matter how much you press Ctrl Z. So the important thing is to do it this way, and essentially that's all. I hope you enjoyed this video. See you next time. Bye bye.